So, who are you and where are we?
Hello, I'm Jérémie Zimmermann. I'm the co-founder and spokesperson of the citizen organization La Quadrature du Net, which is a kind of a citizen toolbox to help everyone understand legislative and non-legislative process that hurt fundamental freedoms on the internet, and help everyone participate in the democratic debate about it, to promote vision of the internet based on sharing of knowledge and openness rather than on control and enforcement. And we are very I would say, close-minded with the Electronic Frontier Foundation.
Yes, so or you're closely affiliated might be the better way to put it.
Affiliated, okay.
There's much in common, and you just engaged in some spirited debate here at the eG8 forum in Paris with an intellectual property panel that included John Perry Barlow from the EFF. What was the subject of the debate?
Well, what is funny as some background is that, first of all, this eG8 forum is some kind of a scam, a kind of super show to whitewash what the governments are really doing about the internet on the G8. And also, as of today, in the official program, John Perry Barlow wasn't on the panel. All there was Universal, Fox, Bertelsmann, and a book publisher in France, the biggest, Gallimard, and the French Minister of Culture. So Barlow was here and brought contradiction, but it was said to be, the full copyright mafia discussing about the agreement that you need more enforcement and this file sharing is a plague and so on. So the debate was pretty much about that. And I wanted to add several points that didn't enter the debate and I think are essential for a good comprehension of the copyright debate and its influence on the internet today.
Now, we should step back a moment here. The copyright debate in France is a little bit different in other places, and that's because you've been embroiled in controversy now for years over a law, and there's Hadopi is how you say it, and it's both a law and a government agency. What's going on there?
Okay, I'll try to make it short because it has been a 3 years ongoing fight and an ongoing political and technical failure for the French government, I must say. The point of this law was to circumvent the standard criminal judicial process for copyright infringement. The point for the copyright industries was to speed up the process, make it more efficient in order to discourage people from file sharing. So from a complex criminal case that is copyright infringement, with such technicalities as presumption of innocence, the burden of proof on the accusation, contradictory audience, and so on. It was changed into some administrative offense. Well, actually, there was a legal trick that they invented a new administrative obligation of securing your internet connection so it is not being used for copyright infringement. And so they put that in the law and they create an administrative authority. That administrative authority, and this is very important, receives complaints from private actors representing the entertainment industries. So this kind of private copyright police that will go over the public networks, that will witness infractions, that will collect evidence, and I have to use air quotes here because IP addresses are all but evidence. But based on what those private companies collect, all this is sent to this administrative authority called Hadopi that will ask for the identification of the IP address, then send an email saying what you've been doing is morally wrong, and then there will be sanctions.
And if you get 3 of those emails, what happens?
Well, if you get 2 of those, then you can have a paper letter.
Okay.
And if you get a paper letter and you do it again, then fail. In the first version of the law, the administrative authority, Hadopi, was able to order for a cutoff of your internet connection. There was a major uproar in civil society, a wonderful public debate that went everywhere on the French internet, and ultimately the Constitutional Court, the Conseil Constitutionnel, overturned the law and removed to that administrative authority its sanctioning power. And the decision, you can find it translated in English, it's decision 2009-580, its paragraph 12 says, given the importance of internet today, and it's important for democratic participation and the sharing of ideas and opinions, freedom of speech implies freedom to access to the internet. Therefore, restricting freedom to access to the internet impedes, harms freedom of expression. Therefore, it cannot be made by an administrative authority. And so the government could have stopped here and say, okay, we were wrong, page turn, but it's not in Nicolas Sarkozy's genes to acknowledge his errors. So they came back with a patch to the law, and now when the administrative authority reached the final steps, it hands the dossier to a judge, and the judge may order for that internet cutoff. But this never happened so far. It's been more than 1 year that it has been put in place, so far it costs 12 million euros a year to French taxpayers' money. And so far, for 1 year, it has spent lots in communication and has been sending emails. So it's a kind of gigantic spam machine. And we make that bet today that there will never be a cutoff, because whenever the ADOPI, that administrative body, will hand over a dossier to the judge, we think that the judge will open it, put it in the trash can, and say, now you come back with evidence. Those IP addresses collected by private actors cannot be considered valid evidence in any jurisdiction. And I think this is one of the major flaws of the whole scheme, beyond the ideological flaw that this whole point of warrant sharing is completely baseless.
So bringing it back to something you touched upon before, your organization, I think, raised a great deal of attention to the summit and some of its aims. What are some of the concerns that civil society organizations in France have about the government's stance on the internet?
Well, if you look at Sarkozy's record on internet policy over the last 4 years since his election, it is a terrible record. He pushed this ADOPI legislation imposing the cutoff of French citizens. He pushed for the administrative censorship of websites with no judicial oversight in the name of combating child pornography, against which this scheme is perfectly useless. He has been pushing for a notion of a civilized internet. He wanted to impose, and he wanted to push through the G8. When the WikiLeaks Cablegate broke out, the French Minister for Digital Economy went to say publicly that he was looking to find ways to be sure that WikiLeaks will be kicked out of its web hosting in France, because WikiLeaks didn't correspond to that notion of a civilized internet. So this is the facts of what Sarkozy and his governments have been doing to the internet. So this whole eG8 forum scam is some kind of smokescreen, is some kind of whitewash of his policy on a national level, and also a smokescreen to what the governments of the G8 are actually doing in their policies to the internet. And I'm thinking of the reaction of the US government to Cablegate. I'm thinking of the seizure of domain names by the US government and the COICA Protect IP Act. I'm thinking of those censorship of websites. I'm thinking of ACTA, the anti-counterfeiting trade agreement that was finalized and that will force internet actors into becoming private police of copyright on the net. And everywhere you look, you see governments attacking the internet, trying to control the internet, and ultimately hurting our fundamental freedoms. So this is very handy to organize this stage show where everybody is nice, red carpet, glitter, petit four, and so on, in order to mask, to hide what is really going on.
So you mentioned the EFF. People can go to EFF.org to learn more about their work. If they want to learn more about what's happening here in France and your organization, where should they go?
Well, actually we're acting in France and in Europe, on the European level in Brussels, and mostly in Europe at the moment.
Okay.
So they should go to www.laquadrature.net, and there is an English version of the website, and feel free to comment.
Well, Mr. Zimmermann, thank you for talking with me, and I look forward to seeing you on YouTube.